Most assuredly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs up some other way, the same as a thief and a robber. Maybe that's why Santa goes up some other way. He comes in like a thief in the
Oh
night.
man.
You know what I mean? And Yeshua says he returns it's gonna be like a thief in the night. And then you've got this dude who, when he comes to your house, it's like a thief in the night. Your kids are not going to know it's coming. It's going to happen. You're going to be asleep. Like it's one of those things where they've made him so much they've deified this Saint Nicholas dude.
You want to pull your presentation up? We can see what you got.
Yeah,
You have some
it's
stuff about Old Nick, so why not?
good old Saint Nick. Yeah, this is stuff I'm just finding out
Yeah,
recently.
old Saint Nick.
Getting prepared to talk about this. That Christmas wasn't actually officially a federal holiday until the 1870s, so it's our version of it is fairly new. But it started happening during the reign of Constantine. It says it followed Saturnalia, a festival where people feasted and exchanged gifts. So there was already the gift exchanging going on, and there was a big merger. The creeds were made that merged the Messiah's image with a lot of the Egyptian deities that they had. So there was a lot of things going on at this significant time in history. Persecution still going on, and then they have this time period with Constantine where it allegedly becomes legalized, and you see this great merger happening. And right now, we're coming out of that great merger where we're coming out of Babylon again and out of Egypt again because of all those things that have happened way back when. But my fascination with this topic switched to looking at Saint Nicholas because that's good old Saint Nick. That's who they tell you Santa Claus is based on. It's in all these Christmas songs. But the fascinating thing about this guy, he was an early Christian bishop. He was at the first council of Nicaea. And so his role was to alter the Messiah's image. And you had, of course, Arius here who was against it on the right. And legends say that he was slapped by good old Saint Nick. Saint Nick did not want to hear that Jesus was the Son of God. He wanted to have that modern day version that we now have, thanks to the creeds of Rome that happened at this time and thereafter. And so he
Is
wasn't
that the
happy
original
about that.
UFC?
Yeah, just like the UFC, and it says he slapped the heretic. This is from like Wikipedia, I think. He's slapping the heretic. We're all heretics here. Heretic Arius for his beliefs. Good old Saint Nick. I'm like, wow. And so for his good deeds of changing Christianity as we know it to the modern day version, he's been deified. I feel like, and the way he is a saint, if people don't know this, we've talked about this before with other videos with the biblical canon and all of that. That word canon is one of their words. It's not in the Bible, but this Creed of Nicaea was around that time when they were canonizing different things, creating these laws called canons. And so this is where they decided that the Messiah is of that same substance of the Father, and the Trinity started taking shape essentially at that time period. But this guy being a saint, Saint Nick, like the books of the Bible, you have to be canonized to become a saint. And so books aren't the only things that are canonized. But the way where it gets weird is they have to have miracles after they die. Someone has to pray to a person who's dead. They have to necromance and pray to a dead saint. It's called beatification. That's the
Very much
next
against
step.
Torah.
Yeah, directly against it. And so they have to be beatified through these miracles that are then verified by multiple witnesses to the Pope. And so the Pope says, yep, they're a saint. That proves that they're in heaven and that they're holy, which also goes against the entire first resurrection account. And so they claim that St. Nick had many miracles associated with his intercession, meaning people praying to him. When you look that up, it's an act of praying to a deity on behalf of others or asking a saint in heaven to pray on behalf of someone else. And so you would have someone saying, St. Nick, I need this miracle, instead of praying the way that the Messiah told us to pray. And like Matt was saying, that goes against the Bible. There's verses that tell us to stay away from these things, like this one here. In Deuteronomy, it says, when thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter pass through the fire. We've talked about that tonight. Or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchantress, that'd be like your psychics, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter, with familiar spirits. Those are your demons, those ones that can pretend to be dead people, to get people's trust to tell you things. They're familiar with the person that died. They can convince you that you're talking to a dead loved one and steer you down a wrong path. So, or wizards or necromancers, which is literally talking to the dead. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And here we have most of America teaching their children that there's a guy named Saint Nick who's literally a saint because people have prayed to him. And so he's got these godlike powers now. People can pray to him. Miracles have been claimed to happen. There's never a verified proof of any of these things happening. There are lying signs and wonders out there. But that word, necromancers, again, is people looking at those mediums that turn to familiar spirits. And it's a dark, dark practice. And it was banned. I think King Saul banned that practice and then had all these people killed that were doing it. But then he sought out a woman who did this to talk to King Saul because God wasn't hearing his prayers. And that's what ended up leading to his demise. He died the next day. And so this guy looks a lot like Santa Claus. This is a Saint Nick thing right here on his. He has a feast day. You know, the Most High has his feast days. Now they have these saints having their own feast days. A lot of them do. There's about 10,000 saints now, by the way.
Wow.
So there's a lot of them. That's a lot of praying to saints. And,
Wow.
you know, just there's so many of these things that go on. And so his honoring him has changed throughout the years. But he's one of those people who was associated with gift giving. I think he gave some gold in secret, putting it in through somebody's window to help save them from going into slavery, you know, because he's a saint. He cares about someone. He's a rich guy. He inherits all this wealth and he gives to the poor. And so it's that whole image of him being good. But this is where it starts to get a little dark, where you start giving those descriptions that we read about him. When you have these kids every year, it's about Jesus, but we're singing these songs about this dude with a white beard and this guy that has a beard that's white. Some of this is the words from a song, you know, Must Be Santa, who has a beard that's long and white. You know, he's got that long white hair. That's the descriptions they give us of the Father. You know, here in Daniel 7:9, it says the hair of his head was like pure wool. And in Revelation, even his hairs were white like wool, white as snow. So it's that same exact description. And they say it must be Santa Claus. And I put a note there. He comes around on a special night, and like we were saying earlier, he enters your house like a thief in the night. Goes well with the verse that you had up earlier, Matt. Him entering your house, it's like a thief in the night when the
Maybe
Messiah.
make me say,
Yeah. Talks about the return of the Messiah. It's going to be like a thief in the night to those that aren't ready, and Santa comes in like a thief in the night in your chimney, climbing up that different route. And this is one that I found last year, and just by some miracle, it came to my memory. It says, "Who?" And this is the song, "Must Be Santa." Who laughs this way? Ho ho ho! You know, it must be Santa, right? Well, there's a verse, Zechariah. Look how it starts out. Zechariah 2, verse 6. Ho ho! Come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith the Lord. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heaven. So this is the Most High talking, and that's amazing that it says ho ho to start out and then flee from the land of the north. You remember that's where good old Saint Nick dwells with all of his little miniature demons or elves helping him out when he's got his list of judgment, you know, where he's judging whether or not you're good or bad, watching everything you're doing. But he says, deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest in the daughter of Babylon. And so that verse right there is kind of a slap in the face because they've got now have this jolly old Saint Nick who is saying ho ho ho. And then again, you have that ho at this verse here where it says, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters. And he that hath no money, come ye buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price. So all those
yeah.
connections
Hold on,
there.
Josh. Can you go back to
Yeah.
that last slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it says that dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon. I mean, that's what we're talking about here is coming out of Babylon, coming out of the worldly, man-made traditions of men. So that's basically what we're just discussing. So that was a great verse in Zechariah.
Yeah, to me, that just it continues to get deeper. Like I said, like they're deifying this guy, good old Saint Nick, where it's his other name was Sinterklaas. Saint Nick, it says he, according to traditions or traditionally, he rides a white horse and carries a big red book in which records whether each child has been good or bad or naughty in the past year. And so he's got this book of judgment and he rides a white horse. Who does that sound like? He's got that white horse. And you see here in Revelation, it says, and I saw in chapter 19, heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him was called faithful and true, and in righteousness he doth judge. Okay, so a lot like the Saint Nick character they're deifying here. And he makes war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. He had a name written that no man knew but he himself, and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood. So who else wears red? Good old Santa. And his name right here is called the Word of God, not Saint Nick. And you read on further in verse in chapter 20, it says, and I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened. So the real books of judgment, not the you've been good this year, you get something, you're bad next year, you get nothing. It's not that way. And for anyone who's teaching that to your kids, I'm not trying to just outright condemn you, but I've had this conviction myself. When you're having children, is what are we going to teach them? You know, my parents didn't really teach me about Santa. I was exposed to it. You see it in movies, you want to believe in it, and people say, and I've had people get really angry when I bring this up, but we're essentially telling them there's this other guy who's got the same powers as the Most High, and all these attributes that are like the Most High. He also shares some with the beloved Son, and he's gonna reward you. And then when we eventually tell them, you know, hey, we were lying, but there's this other guy who's got the same powers that you need to listen to because he really will judge you. It's not once a year though; he's keeping track. And so it's something I've seen. I've heard people have testimonies where they became atheist after they found out Santa Claus was a lie, and he had all those similar powers because they wanted to
Wow.
believe in that magic. And so it does damage some children's faith. So just be mindful of that.
There's a
Go
verse
ahead.
where Yeshua says, if you lie to your children, there's something about a millstone. So
Yeah,
keep
the
that in mind as
millstone.
well.
Yeah, causing one of them to stumble that that's believing in him, and that's what it's done. It's done that to people I've heard from testimonies of. So it's a concern. It's something we need to be mindful of. And I was just looking up legends of this guy, things about him, and it says here that he was, of course, he had the gift giving thing that was associated with him. But it says early stories tell of him calming a storm at sea. Sound familiar? Look in chap and Mark, where the Messiah calms the storm. And then it says he saved 3 innocent soldiers from a wrongful execution, setting the captive free, chopping down a tree possessed by a demon. That's weird. I don't know about that one. And it says, in his youth, he is said to have made a pilgrimage to Egypt. Can't get more like the Messiah than that. Out of Egypt have I called my son. So, yeah, really, it's just so weird. And looking up this verse here, I know there's lots of different views on this verse. This is in Isaiah. This is the Masoretic version, where it says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the, and that word in the Masoretic is congregation. And when you look up the original word, it means appointed times. So I will sit upon the mount of the appointed times in the sides of the north. Of course, in the north, you've got the North Pole, and that's where Santa dwells. Kind of interesting. And then the Septuagint version of that, it says, I will sit on a lofty mount, or I'll set on a lofty mount, on the lofty mountains toward the north. I will go up above the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And so you have this figure who is literally like the Most High, down to his life story and all those different details. But not only that, it gets weirder. I know this gets dark. My wife found something else. She's good at finding stuff that just puts all this together. She said, "Oh my goodness!" She was looking into Christmas, and she goes, "Look at this. This is the meaning of Old Nick." She was looking up this stuff too, and Old Nick. When you look it up, it says etymology of originally from the 17th century. Apparently, a special use of the forename Nick, perhaps in jocular or constrative reference to St. Nicholas. Alternatively, it may be derived from Nicker or from some other derivative of Old English Nickor, which is water demon. And when you look at the proper noun, Old Nick means the devil, Satan, Old Scratch or Old Serpent. Those are the synonyms, Old Serpent. And it
Hello.
just that's hard to hard to imagine that we now have our children celebrating. Let's go sit in Santa's, old Saint Nick's lap, you know.
You can't whitewash this
Yeah. This is straight out
away.
of history.